Tam is unavailable at the moment to show up today. So I will be going over the agenda for the Stewards Weekly. But we're first going to start off with the temperature check. So does anybody want to volunteer to start this off?
Sure, I can.
Right,
temperature check is we know when it's sort of at the end of the winter and it still feels cold, but at the same time you feel warm because you are still wearing your winter clothes. So I feel a little bit like that. We had yesterday a call on Communitas. It was very interesting to dive into. So it's good. Temperature check. It feels cold, but not in the wrong sense, but cold in the sense of when it's chill, but at the same time I feel warm. So good. And I will pass it on to Lauren.
Thanks, Edu. I feel warm. I'm excited because apparently we just hired a Twitter specialist, like an actual Twitter specialist who's in China. But I think that this is going to be really good for improving like the Twitter of the TC and for Giveth and for General Magic and like the entire kind of ecosystem. So I'm really excited about that. But then other than that, I'm a little bit out of the loop. So feeling warm. I'll pass it to Blanca.
Yeah, I would also say that it's warm. There's a lot of things happening. We published an article in the Gravity Medium, but even though it's published, it's very hard to access it. So Nate, maybe I will be DMing you to have some support on that, because the idea is that we can promote that article that talks about what will be coming from Gravity, and also like a lot of things happening. Like in Gravity, we did our second distribution. And so much work being done. Like today, now after this call, we have the practice groups and also like coordination call. We are going to plan the study plan of the Graviton training, and then the book club, and also the psychologic research. So a lot of things happening. Maybe I would like to take some vacation at some point in some months, but everything also done with a lot of motivation and always trying to support in all the small conflicts that may appear. And I'll pass to Libby.
Thank you, Juan. Yeah, today has been great with a lot of very insightful conversations. We're just having a meeting about the utility of the TC token and the working group services kind of thing, and so many great ideas came up. It feels like something is getting shaped. And I also talked to Angela about maybe creating a focused group to attract more token engineers and having like studying use cases and having people bring them, and maybe that could eventually become a service, like an advisory service too. And also we were discussing with Vi and Ben's the how we could create these metrics for Ostrom's principles. What are the data sources that are missing? Feels like there is a lot of like big projects that are important and that would like ground us a lot and make us more sustainable, that are starting to spin up. So that feels exciting. And I'll pass to Septi.
Thank you, Libby. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things going on right now, so I would say like it's a bit warm, like especially like at the beginning of the month with payments. Like the audit is very hot right now. Yeah, like I feel a little bit busy, but at the same time it's nice. Tomorrow I'm going to the Given house which I'm very excited to meet the people there. And yeah, things are moving on. Yeah, I'll pass it to Chui.
Thank you, Septi. I feel it's hot. It's hot, like to the point of like yeah, like sometimes it's just like it's just like moving so fast. I feel, and at the same time, like I feel that this past couple of weeks, like ever since the Tao has happened, and actually it's a month. Like it happened a month today, and after the Taoist and taking like a small break, I feel that all of like my energy started having like an amazing output in the TEC. So I feel very like confident, even though that there is like a high temperature. I feel that it's just like starting to feel like productive and right, and just like it's really nice to be able to like trust in comms as a working group as a whole with its contributors. So I feel very happy about the results and about the initiatives that people are starting to have around comms. So yeah, I'll pass it to Mert.
Thank you, thank you, Chewy. So this week I'm feeling like very normal, not warm, not cold. So things are in the normal pace for me. I'm excited to have Friday's AMA with Nate and Mitch and all others about the proposal inverter. And I was just writing a response to Livia's comment on forum. Thank you so much, Livia, for bringing your concerns. Yeah, so other than that, everything is going regular for me. Like, and I would like to pass it on. Sorry. Why?
Who'd you pass it to, Mark? Sorry.
Why? Sorry.
Bye.
Yeah, temperature is warm, and I think that a lot of interesting discussions have been happening, especially this week, because like now I feel like we're finally starting to get into some of the conversation about we started our community, we bootstrapped our economy. How do we keep our funding consistent and things like that? So that has been interesting, and also about how do we ensure that we stay aligned and things like that. So that's super interesting. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Would you like to pass it on? I believe Manu and Bear are left.
Alright, I'll pass it to Manu.
Thanks, Levi. Other than the newsletter coming up today, I don't have much insights to share. So I don't know who else is left, Nate, for me to pass it to.
Bear.
Okay, I'll pass it to Bear 100 then.
And actually, Metaverde, you are the last one. Apologies.
Griff can take it. He's right next to me.
Yeah, I'm just deafened
Okay,
because
go ahead, Griff.
I don't want to, the mute game is so annoying. But are we doing temperature check?
Yeah.
Yeah, temperature check. Temperature check is neutral, I would say. Feels a little slow. Like there's not like a lot of crazy things happening. But I know that's going to change when the gravity stuff all starts and everything's just grinding. Everyone's got their funding for the most part, and things are moving well. I'm excited to see how we. I think things will pick up a lot when we start working on the token economy a little bit more and start bringing more utility to TC token. That's what I'm hoping to see. But I'll pass it to Metaverde.
If you can hear it.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. How are you guys doing? I'm warm. I'm excited about having time to get re-involved with the DAOs, and excited about everything that's going on in the TEC and how well everybody's holding things together, and enjoying the few gravity sessions I can make it to, and looking forward to being more involved with that. And I'm at work again at the end of my break and need to go back in and stretch some pizza dough. But I'm having a good time and happy to be here. Love you all. I have no idea who to pass it to.
That would be me, and I will say temperature is warm. I think there's a lot of really interesting things happening, a lot of movements, a lot of funding proposals, which is really cool. I think, as Griff said, I think that's Chewy's team, marketing team, may be one of the last groups that we're funding for in terms of operations, which is really exciting to end with. But yeah, outside of that, it's pretty warm, and I hope Tam gets back okay. I think she's taken the day off for personal stuff. So just to remind everybody, that's why I am leading this call at this time. So we're going to move on to the next portion of this, welcoming Mount Manu as Stewards Working Group Coordination Lead. If you haven't already congratulated him, if you don't know, now you know, and he will be in contact with you about ZenHub issues and will be on your case about updating those. So thank you for doing that, Mamanu, and welcome once again. So calendar changes, update all things. SoftGov and Steward weekly meetings are trading places. Stewards takes place on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. CET. SoftGov will take place on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. CET. And we have an orientation party every Thursday at 7 p.m. And so I actually wanted to, as part of this, get everybody's kind of thoughts on the changes. If, in particular, if anybody has any issues or is having, not enjoying it, I kind of wanted to incorporate that feedback within this meeting. So I'll give the floor to anybody who has issues or can't make things.
Just a weekly reminder that the orientation party is open to everyone, and since it is sort of just before the community call, it will be nice. People can jump in at any moment. And we were talking about with Tam about it will be nice for some stewards to rotate on hosting the orientation call, so it doesn't become a centralized thing on myself. It has been for the past, I think, a month in that way. So it will be nice that other stewards sort of rotate. I think probably once a month or twice a month, someone can jump in host orientation call. I don't know if anyone volunteers to do so, but I throw that to everyone to take it.
Thank you, Edo. Is everybody else adjusting to the calendar? Okay. Edo, can I get a hard 5 from you?
5, 4, 3, 2. All right. It seems that everyone is adjusting well.
Thank you, Edu. I need to have like a button that just automatically does that for me. Okay, moving on to the next issue. We're going to talk about the Stewards Council. I think it'd be a good idea for each of the weekly agenda where we have the Stewards Council every other week, actually insert ideas for the topic of the Stewards Council. I think we've recently been kind of just picking a topic, one person picking a topic and just going with it. So if you have any ideas, I would encourage you to enter into this weekly agenda document and insert ideas. And at the end of this call, I think we can vote on what will be the Stewards Council topic for this week. Personally, go ahead.
I thought we agreed on the retrospective that I would be presenting the part 4 of the audit, like talks about the financial statement in general of the TC. And then we were discussing, after doing that, it looks like the revenue is going down so fast. I mean, we could talk about that another day, but yeah, about financial statement, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we can throw ideas, even if it's we already have one for this week. But the other one that I also mentioned with him, it's roadmaps. I feel, and this is something I raised personal concern to Tam on our weekly sync, and it was basically the idea of related a little bit about financial statements and situations. It's that I feel like in 6 months, in 6 months, or no, it's less than 6 months, I forget the name of the parameter, the one that freezes the token, and everyone can sort of sell it. That I think happens at the end of July, if I'm not wrong. Griff, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong. There you go. And like I feel like by that moment, I hope we will have some kind of a strategy or some kind of roadmap that it's. And Tam mentioned that roadmap will be the combination of all of the working groups roadmaps, because if that moment comes in July and the hatcher says, "Oh, okay, what have you been doing all this month? What is the strategy for the next month in base what you have done in the past year, or since January, since the token was launched? What will be what's the intention for the next year or 6 months or 2 months?" And I feel like there is I feel uneasy because I don't see any kind of. I see working groups working on their own sort of island, but I don't see an organizational level kind of vision besides the motto of advancing token engineering. I don't see a roadmap translated. I don't see that phrase translated into a roadmap or into something that we can sort of justify hatchers or people at the end of July saying, "Oh, I will actually stay with my tokens. I will not actually sell them because I actually like what you guys have planned for the next whatever amount of time." So yeah, that's roadmaps. It's a topic, that I will. Scenarios. I don't know how you call it. Scenarios in July, however you wanna phrase it. That's it. Okay. Back to you, Nate.
Yeah. No, yeah, and if anybody has any other topics that they would like to, they think is very, time sensitive, please put them on this list, and so we can cover them. Go ahead.
Just the only thing that I wrote down was the TC utility or demand. And this is also from the retrospective of like, hey, we have an economic model, and so people can mint TEC, but why do they mint TEC? Why do they need TEC? Why would they put it in the bonding curve? And so there's demand from like, okay, I want to advance token engineering, so I could, instead of making grants, I could, put buy TC and direct funding. That's one demand for TC. I mean, people have to buy 200 to make a proposal, for instance. That's one piece of demand. But can we get more creative? Can we choose some other demands? Can we figure out some other kinds of demand for this token?
Yeah, and I think that this is one of the topics that they can all kind of blend together too, because this is just like this underlying fear that we're on a financial bender and we need to figure out our utility issues and making sure that we have some economic activity going through the bonding curve and generating funds for the common pool. And that means being aligned with, what working groups are planning to do with the funds that they do have, making it as sustainable as possible, trying to generate revenue and trying to create external utility for the token. And so these are all very important. I was wondering, Zepti, is there anything that in particular that you remember we talked about for the upcoming weekly council regarding financial spending? Is it just the proposals?
I mean, yeah, the proposals, the revenue that's coming from the bonding. I mean, basically, like it's expenses and revenue, which is proposals, and I mean, yeah, and then our treasury is split in 3 pools right now: common pool, rewards, and laser tag. And then, I mean, we have the reserve, but I don't count this as part of the treasury since it's breaking the money, but it's also there.
Okay. Thank you for updating that and clarifying that. So yeah, if you do have any other Stewards Council ideas, please just enter them into this agenda. I think we want to keep track of it through this document, and just see if we can keep carrying them to each new week and make sure that we cover these issues, because they can pile up quite quickly. All right, so we're going to move on to the monthly compensation. Streamlining multi-sig distribution and confirming that we have statements of commitment and fulfillment. I wanted to ask about how working groups are doing these, and whether we need to come together to talk about how we do them. So is anybody having any issues in terms of getting commitments and fulfillments? I know that transparency, I saw that you guys were doing it via the forum. Some groups are doing it Discord. Should we have standards around how we make these declarations?
I mean, at the end of the day, like I'll try to gather all the data and present it in the audit. Probably that would be like, I mean, if people is willing to, support and make it easier, it's always nice. But at the end of the day, like I'll try my best to get everything into the audit, if that helps.
I kind of like that everyone's experimenting with different patterns, and then we see which one is the best. And I think it will naturally converge into some sort of pattern, because most of us are working in the same style. So it's cool. And then we'll see, do people like it on the forum better? Do people like it in a Discord thread? Do people just want to be paid secretly, discreetly? However, we'll see what people like. I'm sure a lot of us have to jump through the hoops, in all the hoops. So we'll see what everyone likes the best.
And in terms of, so for example, the Stewards multi-sig distribution of funds, we have commitments for this month, but we have not started the distribution of those funds yet. And so this is something that we haven't really talked about in the multi-sig group. For everybody who's on that, who would be in charge of doing that, what we need to pay attention to, are there going to be standards of like patterns of roles in terms of our obligations to actually submit those proposals, and who's going to execute them, and all that good stuff. I'm not sure if this is something we have talked about before and I'm just missing it, but perhaps we could have that conversation now.
Last time was done by Tam, but if I have to do it, I don't have any problem. I'm also there. And yeah, like if we have like set up a date, and I mean, at the end of the day, like at least 3 people need to sign, but I mean, I could take like the first step and do the first ones. Like I'm also doing it for gravity and transparency, so get used to.
Yeah, and then like I don't want to take it for granted, because the people, Tam doing that, it's a lot of work to set up these payment systems, and I don't know if there's any methods that we can do to streamline recurring payments for the same group of people for the same amounts. But I haven't really explored. Well, particularly from the Gnosis multisig. I haven't really explored Gnosis multisigs all that much, but yeah, just looking for ideas around that.
I have a question. I mean, recurring payments, it's tricky for some working groups. Yeah, it's tricky maybe. But my question, I had this question from the work. Probably you will do this with Ham Shui eventually. But how do you handle transparency on the work? Like, does people request it within the? I have never used it, so I'm asking from completely ignorance. Does people request it on the app? But then, how do we sort of keep track of that outside the workspace?
So basically, what dwork does is that it uploads the transaction to the Gnosis safe. So, like, regardless of who the admins are, like in the dwork space, once the transaction uploads, it needs to be signed, but only by the Gnosis safe signatures. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with dwork privileges. But how we have handled it is that contributors' votes in the Gnosis safes are like very I miss the word, like it's like we need their vote, like we need their vote to happen for the funds to be distributed, but not at a point where it could be like under some kind of like attack or like bad practice or malicious practices, because the signatures that are more deterministic to be able to execute these votes are mine and Septi's. So even if all of the contributors vote, in the end they would need like the vote of the steward to reach the minimum votes required. So it's like a call of action. It's just like if we want the funds distributed, we all need to get together, sync, and execute the votes, but not at a level where it represents a risk for transparency.
Sorry,
was that clear enough? Did that make sense?
Sorry, I think I've paraphrased wrongly the question. My question is, how do we keep track of this outside Gnosis, outside, like, for example, in Communitas, we are just creating a thread for requesting compensation under the Communitas text channel. So you go there and you see everyone's, like Stewards do the same. But since you're doing it through the work, how do you track? How do we keep, like, because we are trying to do it on Communitas too. We're going to probably use the work. So my question is, how do you keep track of people's requests of compensation?
It's like issues close on GitHub, and then you see the payment there, and you see the issue description, and then also like the person who is submitting, doing the task, he submit the work done, and
right.
You see the money there, you see the transaction hash, you see everything. As long as the only thing that could go wrong is like the administrators of the dwork suddenly delete tasks done. That's the only thing I see that could happen wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, so
there's.
I think Edu's comments revolve around this kind of individual commitment, especially for recurring payments, like monthly payments, and not so much bounties. And so keeping track of those types of things. Is that correct, Edu?
Yeah, because we are using, for example, a spreadsheet. It's a very simple spreadsheet in Communitas where we keep track. We copy and paste everyone's request and the amount and the hash of the transaction, all this stuff. And it's very simple. So my mind is like, okay, so if I have to move to the work, where all this information can I see it? Like in 6 months, will I be able to see all this information compiled in a single space, or I have to go GitHub issue by GitHub issue seeking the information because I don't have a dashboard or I don't have a spreadsheet where I can see it. So it's about that. It takes too long. It's taking too long. It's taking longer than it should be. But it's just a simple question of how do we handle the tracking of payments on the work. That's it.
No, these are important conversations. Did you have a response to that, Septi or Chewy?
I do. I think that dwork was working kind of like in a feature of like, not a trash bin, but just like a place where all of the completed tasks go. So I actually have a call with later today with them. So I'll ask what the status is, because I noticed that they took it out. But at the same time, like, you have like this field of completed tasks in the done column. So, I mean, how it has been working for, like, like big moves and payments is that whenever there's like an interaction with the Gnosis safe, there are two kind of like notifications that are sent out. One is to Discord, to the thread that it's a payment complete or task done or whatever. And if you go to the comms channel, like, you'll be able to see like some of these like notifications. And at the same time, like, the big vote is reflected on the T Commons Dune analytics. So if you would ever like to trace, like, this day, like, there were 1,000 XDAI that came out of the Gnosis safe, like, you can go to that same like date either in the Discord notifications or in the DWork workspace and just like see what those payments are. And if you go to the individual task, contributors are encouraged to attach some kind of like evidence or details, kind of like the giveth traces, like about what they did that week, or if it's a bi-weekly payment, it's just like a more like extensive report on deliverables. It's like, did that land a little bit closer to your question?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, and so, yeah, thank you for that, Chui. Zep, did you have anything you wanted to say before I move on?
No, I just wanted to say, like, on Gravity, like, we also use the spreadsheet to get things more organized, and then also to compare balances of the multisig with the spreadsheet. This is a thing that Steward do not do, so we can use both things. Like, even if we're using Steward, that doesn't mean we need to stop using the spreadsheet. Like, I think like they can coexist.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that, as we keep doing this, we'll start to form best practices. And it's very important that we share these practices and what works and what doesn't with each other and different working groups that are trying to keep track of their monthly payments. And so let's keep this conversation going. There's actually one more aspect of this that I wanted to cover or pose a question for, is that the timeliness of these payments, making sure that they happen consistently by a certain time each month. Is this something that anybody finds to be very important? Like, should these payments be distributed by like the 5th of each month, as long as you make the fulfillment? And if somebody fails to make the fulfillment, should we hold off on that payment for that person? And those are the two questions I have left that I wanted to cover during this call. So I just wanted to hear anybody's thoughts around that.
I think those two questions could also be part of the console, in the sense of there could be these very simple, kind of good practices out of trial and error that we are running right now. So I feel like once the groups that will be finishing their first, the amount of time that the budget proposal covered, Communitas, Stewards, I think their due time is quite soon, in a month or two. We can sort of have this conversation or share good practices and share like, what was the feeling about the people, contributors, like what was the time expectancy of people. Some people are more relaxed. They can wait a week. Some people need it for the 31 to pay bills or whatever. So I think we can just have this put together, what we have learned from this practice that we have executed the past 3 or 4 months, and then learn from that. Because right now it's this question is very simple, the one of the time, but there will probably be other things that will be needed to keep sort of consensus or see what other people process came about. Back to you, Nate.
Anybody else have any thoughts on this as well? Get the Edu hard 5 again.
5, 4, 3, 2. There you go.
All right, let's move on. Okay, so thank you for going over that monthly compensation. So now we're going to move on to check any of the gardens and TAL votings that we need to discuss. In our gardens, we have our tributes, updating fees to 14 to 16%. About 20 hours left on that. We have our marketing team funding. We have our CAD community funding. We have our dog fooding, the proposal inverter funding. So we have the water soon. So if you have any thoughts on water, keep engaging with this thread. But
is there an actual forum post up in TC yet?
No, this is only in the One Hive.
No, there's not. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, so we should probably get that.
Yeah, I would love to spin that up. I think there is some movement in the water stuff. Bright ID has got half of their funds in. Honey has got half of their funds in. They're doing another conviction voting. I think our funds would come from laser tag, so that means we need to do a snapshot vote. And I guess, unless someone else wants to stay, I'm actually pretty free this afternoon, so I'm totally cool to write this forum post and make the water forum post proposal, especially since it's mostly a copy paste of what's already on OneHive. And then I'm curious about, like, for snapshot, what kind of vote would we want to use? I guess it's just a yes, no. And does anyone have opposition to water that, through advice process I should get ready for? Any thoughts?
I think
go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I think there was some advice process, like there was not so much engagement, so I think like it would be okay, like make the proposal, and I agree, yes or no vote.
I agree to just a no vote too.
To agree to what?
A yes and no vote.
Oh,
just a no vote.
Okay, cool.
This is one of those things where I'm like, I kind of, it's so, like, I've read the water proposal, but it seems that it's very beneficial for the general ecosystem within Gnosis, and I like having this kind of common liquidity source. But I'm not sure the individual benefit to the projects themselves, outside of not having to provide as much liquidity with each token. Is there any other like additional individual benefit to projects outside of that for this?
Sorry, does someone else want to say it? I thought I heard someone else on mute. But the other benefit that's beyond just a normal token swap is it's a diverse token swap, which is kind of cool, easy coordination. But then the real benefit is that there is this water token that then becomes an index fund. So the water token is only minted to create in the LP tokens, right? So it's minted 1 for 1 per dollar, and then but the cool thing is now this water token itself has sort of a auto rebalancing index functionality. So it is a little bit of an experiment, and Sam was like, this hasn't been modeled. And I think it'd be interesting if anyone in the TC wants to do some modeling of how exactly it works. But basically, it gives actual utility to the token swap that before was never there. Like before, you just get the liquidity. Now you get liquidity and an index token that someone can just hold water and know that they're also holding all of these other tokens at the same time.
Has there been any concern around kind of this like central point of failure for lots of projects in terms of if this goes awry?
I mean, I think it goes the only like failure points that I can see are centralized around this multi-sig, of which we have 4 strong members in our community. 4 stewards are on this multi-sig, which is pretty incredible. Giveth and TEC definitely have the best look here because like we almost have enough signatures on our own to pass proposals in the multisig. So that's kind of cool. But as long as water token doesn't get minted, I don't really see too many fatal flaws. There is a question mark on how routing works in these HoneySwap. Like if we put it up there, will it actually be routed through? Because when I was originally testing the Give TEC token swap, like it works if you're trading Give for TEC or TEC for Give, but it doesn't work if you're trading XDAI for TEC. Like it doesn't go to the Give TEC pool. So I want to make sure that we figure out this routing thing, and I think Water will help us figure that out for our other token swap too, because it will be an obvious issue.
Okay, and does this take away from any of our other liquidity efforts? Like, is this going to replace our other liquidity efforts?
It is definitely a huge percentage of our liquidity pool, right? It's like 30% about of our total pool. So it is like 5 token swaps in one, basically. So it is a big decision. Like it's like a big commitment. We'll have only 70% of our laser tag multisig left for other liquidity acquisition strategies.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that. Probably add that form today, maybe, and then talk about the snapshot and vote. So we'll keep an eye on that, and then we have our
I saw really quick. I saw Chewy, you unmuted. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, just a quick question. I mean, with all of these talks that we've been having about like how to like benefit, not really the price of the TEC, but just like the funds in the common pool. So would this liquidity benefit arbitrage, and that arbitrage would be like benefiting the bonding curve? So like that, could that be considered a benefit, or is there like any other way it's going to be working that I'm just like not considering?
I think liquidity on secondary markets is something that we want to just be a more legitimate and accessible token. So in that way, it like makes us look like a more legitimate token by first glance, for sure, for token investors and people who might want to, or also potential investors who might disqualify us because we don't have that secondary market liquidity. But it doesn't have any direct impact on the bonding curve or any kind of anything. If anything, it does make it a little bit harder to move the price on secondary markets, which like we have this weird relationship with liquidity where the more liquidity we have, the less likely people are to use the bonding curve. But then the more liquidity we have, the more volume and access we give to casual crypto investors. So it's kind of this plus minus game.
Okay, so if it either like affects or benefits the price of the token in the secondary market, I mean, in the end, it ends up in some way just like benefiting the bonding curve.
Absolutely, yeah. Because now water is another utility. Like if someone buys water because they want exposure to all the tokens, that will increase the TEC token price, and that will push some pressure on the bonding curve. Thanks, Nate. You can take it. Oh, Edu?
Yeah. Go ahead, Edu.
No, I want to ask if we finish the topic of that. There is something else I would like to discuss because we have a few minutes left. So,
okay, yeah. So let's everybody just keep their eye out on the Gardens votes. Check in on Spotlight with Community Call. Wesley's POCs. Anybody have any updates on this?
So this and the next topic is part of the things that I want to talk about. I already wrote Wesley today to check on him regarding if he gonna confirm. I will say it will be nice to have a plan B just in case. He has very hectic times, so you never know with Wesley. So I will say let's have a plan B just in case. And then the next thing that's put here, Twitter Space this week. And there is a very interesting thing that I don't think Griff and I didn't think about, which is basically one of the retrospective results from 2 weeks ago was to have a sort of a space or a call for discussing gardens proposals. And I was going to share it that it was going to be on Friday, 7 p.m. and it was going to be hosted with Griff. And I probably, the thing is that the gardens, the proposal embedded is also a gardens proposal. So I feel like it will be an overlap to have kind of the same thing going on. So I will say go on with the Twitter Spaces because you have already planned, and we can prepare better for the Wednesday before Softcov call that you mentioned, Griff. I don't know what do you think about it?
Sorry, had trouble finding the mute button. You're talking about the gardens call?
Yeah. Correct.
I'm sorry, I missed it. This is a Twitter space?
No. So there has been a coincidentally overlap for this week that Nate is going to have with Mert and so on, and Mitch roundtable about the proposal in Better, which is also a proposal in the gardens. So coincidentally, for this Friday, there will be like an overlap, but I don't know what you think if we just skip it to the 20 that you mentioned, or we still do it.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think that we can skip it. I don't want to compete against another gardens proposal. I think that makes sense. So let's skip it. And because honestly, it's a horrible time anyway for Europe. It's like Friday night party time for Europe. Come on, no one's gonna come hear us talk about gardens proposals. So let's just maybe, if anything, I would love to just join the proposal inverter Twitter space, and then we start this as a real thing that happens before SoftGov every other week.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we can incorporate things like that within it, because my plan was to have kind of this rotating, TEC roundtable that goes over, TE projects and advancements in the space, and we have different people facilitating different conversations, maybe recurring every couple of weeks, and maybe even more if it's successful. But the idea would be to have, that space to go over it, and so like an hour-long discussion around the proposal inverter this week for the Twitter Spaces. But at the end of that, I don't see why we couldn't additionally just be like, okay, here's kind of an update within TEC Gardens and going over some of the proposals there as well.
So the idea of the gardening session, whatever name it has, but the gardening session kind of idea is an excuse to sort of keep the hatchers involved and on the loop about what's going on. So that's the real intention of the gardening session. And as a potential educational spot, because you will learn about certain aspects that need to be explained in order for you to understand the garden proposal that we are talking about. So let's say it's a more focused space rather than a broad overview, because I feel we don't have, I feel a lot of the stakeholders, token holders, whatever, are not on the loop, and they are like, oh, so you suddenly send me a vote, send me a link to vote, but I have zero clue. So if we facilitate this space where people can just join and know what's going on the gardens, and just know, that's the intention of that. And the idea is that since we are doing this bi-weekly update of the fee, of the parameter that needs to be updated every 2 weeks, I think, it was going to be also a bi-weekly session in our case. So I feel the more the merrier. I would love to have this Friday session into the spaces, and also the Wednesdays ones for this hatcher or token holders or people who can vote on gardens specifically. Does that make sense, Nate?
Yeah, it definitely does. Does anybody else have any comments on this as well? Okay.
5,
Um,
4, 3, 2, 1. Oh yes.
all right, thank you. I really do need a recording of that. So checking on rewards working group, I'm going to skip this. And we're going to talk about Chewy. I know you added gravity process and translations team. If you want to bring that up real quick. And
yes, it's might be still like a little soon to provide like more details, but I did not think on how to say this the proper way. There is like some kind of conflict within the translations team. It's mostly around some miscalculations that there were when we submitted our proposal, and it has a lot to do also with just like communication and just like verifications that shouldn't have really like went through, and this kind of like started generating conflict around, you know, like this kind of situation where like it's not really like whose fault it is, but like the opportunity within itself. But there are like some differences that at some point it just like started getting like kind of heated up, and we collectively like decided that maybe starting a gravity process would be the best way to follow up with this, and kind of like even, you know, like consider this kind of like conciliation between the different parts. So in the meantime, while we figure this out, we're not going to be moving any translation funds, even though we owe people like some of the bounties and stuff like this. But there needs to be more clarity, transparency, and accountability around these funds. So first things first, I feel that managing the conflict itself is relevant at this moment. And once that gets sorted out, we'll find the best way to present an idea on how to deliver what we kind of like offered in the original proposal, or if there needs to be like a request of additional funds to deliver that same content. Just like eventually opening up the decision is something that we're planning to do. And so yeah, I'll keep the Stewards working group posted about this, and just in general, like how it goes. So yeah, it's a little bit frustrating, but I really believe in the opportunity to grow up and just like to come out of this better. So yeah, thanks Juanca for all of the follow-up around this. And yeah, I don't know if anybody has like some questions or observations around this.
I would just say, like, any type of conflict that happens around initial like funding that we're doing right now is really important to discuss in terms of like what went wrong, what we're learning about it, and sharing that with others, because I think there's a lot of people, especially at the beginning, that have these kind of feelings of like, you know, who's getting paid, who's not getting paid, how much they're getting paid. And even though if they do not articulate it, they, you know, they have those feelings. And so like making sure that we know how to manage those types of situations is really important. So I would love to hear from Gravity and you at some point later on as kind of like a after action report of what we can do to avoid those types of situations in the future.
Oh yeah, and the thing is that it's not more complex than just human error around the process itself. Of course, there are a number of things that we could have done to kind of like avoid getting to this situation, but even like getting here, it's really like no more complex than human error. The thing is that I feel that there needs to be like a certain we need to agree on many like different things, especially around ethics, that we haven't been able to reach a decision or a common ground on. So this is why Gravity is bringing in, and actually what made the whole situation scale was mostly around ethics. So yeah, I mean, I'll eventually like present an assessment of the whole situation, and I do agree there are a lot of things that we can learn from this situation. So yeah, I just wanted to contribute to just being transparent about it, and yeah, as the gravity process moves forward, I'll keep everyone updated.
Okay, yeah, and so thank you for that, Chewy. So last couple things before we round up this is the Amsterdam Dallas Shelling Point Dev Connect. Who's going to be in Amsterdam? Who's going? If you are, please add your name to this list so we can get everybody connected. Upcoming TEC presentations, the monthly TEA and TEC Intro to Token Engineering. I'm not sure who went on the first, spoke in the first, but if you're interested in speaking, I encourage you to add your name to this list. It's just kind of introducing token engineers to the TEC, along with the Token Engineering Academy, and it's a really good experience if you get a chance to practice your public speaking and engaging with new token engineers. So if you're interested in that, please add your name to the list, and we will incorporate you into the next monthly meetings. And of course, as always, the sprint board check-in and working group updates. Make sure you're updating your sprint boards. If not, Mount Manu will come and hunt you down and force you to do it now. So keep that in mind. If you don't want to hear from Mount Manu in your message box, gotta get updated voluntarily. Does anybody else have any thoughts before we leave? Let me get that hard five.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you attending this call. And if you have any thoughts or notes you want to add, please do so to the agenda. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you, Nate.
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nate.